Ladies and gentlemen, RosterWatch Nation, welcome back to the epic RosterWatch Podcast, brought to you by RosterWatch.com. My name is Alex Dunlap here with the Trashman. This will be the Week 9 waiver edition of the podcast. We'll go over some waiver wire stuff and also, of course, be keeping you up to date as we get new information from, we're creeping right up on the trade deadline. We're about an hour out. I guess was 4 p.m. Eastern, so we're an hour out. We're in the witching hour right now as we record this on YouTube. If you guys have questions, fire them in the YouTube comments, and we'll get to them at the end of the show. Specifically, if you have questions about players you can drop to pick up some of the players we're going to be talking about today here on this edition of the podcast, stick them in chat. We'll get to those. And if you have any other questions, like trade questions or just general stuff, fallout from some of these moves that have happened in free agency. Let's just start out, Trashman. The first thing that we'll mention to our users who have already downloaded the waiver wire cheat sheet today. Obviously, we've had some things happen in the last 30 minutes that are going to be changing things to some degree. So as soon as we get off here, some of the things that Trashman and I discuss here on the podcast, we're going to be implementing on the waiver wire cheat sheet for you guys. So the most updated version of that will probably be up, within 15 to 20 minutes of the time that we end this broadcast, and I can get it over to our web guy. But just so we can kind of reset it, and just so we can kind of know, just from an overview of the thing before we get into any of this stuff, probably not the best week on waivers, not a giant spend up week on waivers, but certainly a week where there are some options, Trashman. And when you look at the bye weeks here, and it's our first real bye-apocalypse. We have the Browns, we have the Cowboys, the Broncos, the Giants, the Steelers, and the 49ers all on bye this week. And if you've gone and you've looked at your fantasy rosters today and try to get your starting lineup in for next week, if you're anything like me, man, some of these lineups look pretty crusty and bad. So there could be some plays that we need to make this week on waivers. I think it's going to be a matter of, are these kind of, pick them up and stash them kind of plays? Are these plays that we need to actually run out next week for our players who are on bye? And should go a little ways in guiding you about which way you should go with some of these. And we'll hope to give some context here on the show. Some of the things that have happened just, over the course of the last couple of minutes, really. I can't believe this stuff. Calvin Ridley, that doesn't matter to us, but Calvin Ridley to the Jags. It's probably pretty awesome for the Jaguars for next season, but I'm not sure how awesome it is for Calvin Ridley. And Calvin Ridley is going to be 27, 28 years old. I'll be interested to see. Okay, so here it is. So if he gets reinstated by a date, it's worth a 2023 fifth. Otherwise, it's the sixth. If he makes the team in 2024, it's at least a fourth. If he hits the playtime milestone, it'll be a third. If Jacksonville gets a long-term deal done with Calvin Ridley, it's going to be a 2. So actually, Jacksonville is disincentivized from getting a long-term deal done with Calvin Ridley, considering if they do, they're going to have to give up a second-round pick to the Atlanta Falcons. Yeah. So that sure sucks for Ridley, who he feels like he really got swindled for betting on some parlays when he wasn't even playing football. The big news here there's 2 bits of big news, and it all involves weirdly ex-49ers running backs. We have Chase Edmonds as part of the Bradley Chubb deal to Miami. Chase Edmonds, now a Denver Bronco, joining Latavius Murray.
If you thought the running back group there couldn't get any more convoluted.
Well, that was turning out to look it was turning out to look like it was just a nightmare that Mike Boone was completely. Basically, what I think this is they've realized that Mike Boone is not going to be the answer for them as a third down back, right? I think that they think Latavius has some juice. We know George Patton was with Boone with the Minnesota Vikings. Certainly during that time, though, it overlapped with Latavius being there too. And I think that they just kind of like him there as more of the hammer. So we'll talk about where Chase Edmonds sort of fits in. We also have this stuff with the 49ers. Now that they have Christian McCaffrey, they're trading Jeff Wilson to Miami, who just lost Chase Edmonds. So for about 30 seconds there, Byron's doing flip-flops in our group text saying Raheem Mostert to the moon. Now all of a sudden you got his old teammate Jeff Wilson that vultured and cucked him at every possible turn back in San Francisco. Our guy Raheem has not been freed, I don't think, to quite the same degree. So Mike McDaniel now has 2 of his running backs from San Francisco. We don't have the information yet as far as the oh, yes, we do. Okay. So the Dolphins are sending a 2023 5th-round pick to the 49ers for Jeff Wilson Jr. So a 5th-rounder gets Jeff Wilson Jr. to the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins, they're saying like they're like, man, they're like screw this. Like let's see if we can make a run. Let's go get Bradley Chubb.
Let's just get the guys we had in San Francisco.
Let's go get Jeff Wilson. Let's get Chase Edmonds the hell out of here. Obviously, they were as underwhelmed by Chase Edmonds as we were, watching him there in Miami. And it's just so funny. He's the guy that they actually paid the most money to. So as I look at this, Trash Man, I feel like Chase Edmonds. So the guys who we were looking at before any of this stuff kind of came up, Tyler Algier is still only owned in 55% of leagues. Now, the hiccup with Tyler Algier with the Falcons, despite the fact that he's looked really good, these last couple of weeks, and despite the fact that it looks like Arthur Smith is going to want to run the football like crazy, is that Cordell Patterson's he's been kind of pegged to be back week 9, right, off of IR. That's his first week eligible to come back. So who knows how that messes everything up.
I mean, Caleb Huntley's been playing well too.
And Huntley's a guy you can consider on waivers. We got our guys in chat here. We got some real bros, man, some real ones. We got Ronald Martinez, and we got just a legend, man, Mr. Cody Carpentier. Cody, thanks for that protein powder you sent me, brother. Feel strong.
You trying to get like Cody? You trying to get built like Cody?
Do you think I could get built like Cody? Being like built like Cody like literally takes a lifetime. That isn't something you can make a resolution.
It takes being born with those.
Like you can't just make a New Year's resolution saying, "No, man, I'm gonna shape my body to be like Cody Carpentier over the course of this next year." Anyway, just dude, another big yoked guy like Cody that you would not want to run into if he had full pads on. Tyler Algier. It'll just be interesting to see with him what happens. There's a rub to all these guys at the very top. Kenyon Drake, when you consider the fact that who knows what's going to be happening with these guys coming back online, coming back healthy. Gus Edwards,
Kenyon Drake's a good play this week, though. I feel like this is the week for Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, right. Well, if you look at the matchup tool, I think it's fine. I think it's good because they are in a 48 total game, but they're at New Orleans, and that is, you can ask Josh Jacobs about how it is running on those guys, right? But they're 2.5-point favorites. It's a 48-point total. He's going to be the lead back for this week. So, I think that it's fine. There's Chuba Hubbard in Carolina that missed this last game. Chuba was running behind Deontay or running in front of Deontay before he got hurt.
I don't think that's going to be the case.
I'm saying like there's a rub with all these guys, right? Because after what Deontay Foreman has done, it's going to be hard for. That's one of those genies you just can't really put back in the bottle, man. Deontay, when I was watching these games I was at my daughter's birthday party, Trash Man, at a place where they had Sunday ticket, and I was sitting there with my neighbor. We were watching these games.
Did you make sure they had Sunday ticket before you made it a birthday location?
Goddamn well I did. And I specifically reserved a seat that was in front of the biggest one that they had red zone on. But dude, every time you looked up during the Carolina game and you saw Derrick Henry, you saw Deontay running the ball. It looked like Derrick Henry. It really truly did. People forget how fast Deontay Foreman is. I've personally clocked Deontay Foreman as a high school senior at like hand time to like a 4.46. I mean, clearly he's had the Achilles since then. He's put on a lot of weight since then, but he's a big, fast dude. He's looked really good, but there's the issue there. I don't know. We're gonna have to wait for about another 40 minutes to see if we need to add Dearness Johnson onto this list, because if Dearness Johnson is elevated to Kareem Hunt's role, if there is a Kareem Hunt trade, Trashman, I'm getting the feeling like that thing's not going to go down.
Yeah, I don't feel like it is, but
Okay.
I don't know. Stranger things have happened. None of these trades that have happened in the past 24, well, the past 4 or 5 days, I would have expected to.
No, right. They've all been somewhat unexpected, right? Like, we didn't even talk about Chase Claypool to the Bears. Right. I mean, I just look, man. To me, I think that's actually good. Like, we've been complaining about it for these last couple of weeks as Justin Fields has started to look better and better and better. Like, they need to give him some help, and it needs to be something besides Velus Jones and these shitty offensive linemen that they've given him. Because Justin Fields, I mean, he's actually got juice. Let's see, Dorian, did you get your swags from Ronald Martinez? Oh, he's rocking them right now, Ronald. We appreciate it, brother. It's not quite cold enough for me just yet to be wearing these hoodies. Jeffrey Play says, should I trade Dameon Pierce for Mooney and Jonathan Taylor? I mean, are we really here with Jonathan Taylor?
I guess so.
Yes. You trade away.
I mean, he's ruined me in at least one league.
Oh, come on, Trash Man. Are you telling me that we're just I'm just
talking about people's proclivity to maybe want to get him off their team.
Yeah, well, I mean, I get it. I've heard this kind of sell low talk on Jonathan Taylor. Because people still do associate him with being the 1.01 pick, right? And a lot of he wasn't 1.01 on our PPR sheet, but he was 1.02, and it's JT. I mean, he's still one of the best. He's one of the best backs in football. He's one of the best backs alive.
One thing that he does have going for him, and the reason why I would probably pull the trigger, is that they fired their offensive coordinator. So maybe something changes there in the way that they're approaching.
Two things as far as this Dameon Pierce JT thing. Two things. Okay. One, you have Jim Irsay, who's in charge of this whole thing, who told him you got to switch to Sam Ehlinger. You know that he had something to do with that, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So if he comes in there and he says that, and he's taking over some kind of football, telling these guys what to do, what's the other thing that owner is going to say?
Get the ball to JT.
What the hell? He's going to say, what the hell are you doing? Not only get the ball to JT, put Nyheim Hines on the damn trade block. I want him so far away from JT's touches. I want you to trade his ass. There was talks that he was on the block. It's like, and so I think that there could be more coming from that. I think they saw what happened with Sam last week, and they're gonna need to run the football more. And on the other side of the coin with Dameon Pierce, dude, Mike Vrabel came in there with Tennessee and Malik Willis, who threw what? 10 times?
I think it was
Okay. I thought it was like 11 something. Can you pull it up and just verify? Just pull up one of the tools and verify it. I only have this.
I think maybe it was 10 and 6. Maybe that's what I'm thinking. Maybe it's 10.
It was puny. They did not throw. They ran the football the whole time. The Texans they couldn't stop them. The Texans are atrocious. I bet them the over out of 17 games that these dudes are going to win 4 damn games, and I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose.
My Cowboys bet isn't looking too bad right now. Huh?
I need that tie. Like, I think I'm going to need that tie, that sister kissing ass tie that's going to be what costs me on.
So he had 10 attempts and 6 completions.
10 attempts. I knew, like.
Well, I got the 6 completions and 10 attempts. Put them together.
So as awesome as Dameon Pierce is, when he's associated with an offense that could be that big of a train wreck and a team that's that bad, I know the Colts are probably gonna be bad too. But I mean, and I love Dameon Pierce. We have him everywhere. I mean, we have Cody in chat. Ask Cody how much we were talking about Dameon Pierce whenever we were at the Combine or just at the Senior Bowl. Cody was at the Senior Bowl with us and at the Combine or at the draft. Like, we can talk about Dameon Pierce forever. We love Dameon Pierce. We're really talking about him or JT? To me, it seems odd. So Cody's here saying, once Miami went Wilson over Hunt, I don't think Hunt gets moved either. Oh, that's interesting. I think Cleveland thinks they can still push for the playoffs with Watson. Yeah, Cleveland, Jesus, man. What the hell happened last night to my Cincinnati -3, by the way, Trashman? What happened?
Those division rivalries kind of go south sometimes.
Do you think it was just them missing Chase, or do you think it's just because Zach Taylor's always just a couple times a year just looks like such a donkey? I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think too, these teams, I think Cleveland probably just probably really dials up something special for these games against those division rivals. I mean, I think that's part of it.
No new news just yet coming in here. The last thing I see from Rap Sheet is just the conditions attached to the trade for Calvin Ridley, but we're going to keep you guys updated. But back to Chase Edmonds, where does he fit? Like, because if we're talking about the Chuba Hubbards, we've talked about Latavius. Like, Latavius now might have some kind of Chase Edmonds problem. Latavius has a Latavius problem and a Broncos problem and a Nathaniel Hackett problem. Chuba Hubbard has a Deontay Foreman problem. Nyheim Hines has maybe this Irsay / trading block problem. Rashad White, Alexander Madison, these guys are under 55% owned, but they're pure handcuffs. With Rashad White maybe kind of picking up some steam. Isaiah Pacheco off the bye. He was named starter before the bye. Didn't necessarily mean much of anything, but it is the Chiefs. And a lot of times, man, coming out of buys are the times where we start to see, let's take the bye week to get the younger guy acclimated. And you know what I mean? It's sometimes after these buys, especially these rookies, we'll see bumps in their usage. So, I mean, Pacheco, if he's out there in your league, is like, does Chase Edmonds, does he belong beneath all those guys? Does he belong at the top of all? Because, I mean, Algier, like, do we really want him? Are we really going to spend up? I mean, none of these guys are anything above 15 to 20% of your budget allocation. And on the cheat sheet, you'll be able to see what we recommend as far as budget. But and generally these guys are in tiers and in buckets. Like all those dudes I just mentioned, it's kind of like I said earlier, it's about what you need for this week. But
that's what I'm saying. I think that's what it's going to come down to is what we need for this week. Well, I mean, okay. to make a distinction between these guys.
But they still have to be it's like we still live in a world where names have to be written in order, and people are going to look at that order, and to some degree they're going to say that's the order within the tier. And so we need to take these things into some kind of consideration and put Chase Edmonds somewhere in that 15 to 20% budget tier. Is it above the pure handcuffs? Is it above Madison and Rashad White? I'm not sure. It's like,
I think you put him at the back of that group.
So behind like Pacheco.
I mean, I'd rather start Pacheco than Chase Edmonds in his first game as a Bronco.
Okay, that's fine with me. That's a good point. Okay, so I'll put Chase Edmonds here on this one. All right, this also opens up a little bit of something no, I guess we don't need to talk. So Chase Edmonds, Den. It looks weird to write. I was going to say it might open something up to talk about with like a Myles Gaskin or anything like that. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure that it even matters. People have talked about Caleb Huntley, but that's the same thing that we mentioned earlier I think that, I'm not sure that Tyler Algier is going to get nuked, but it feels like, look at this. So the Broncos have made a trading for Jacob Martin, who's a DN for the Jets. So that's how they're going to backfill, I guess, the Chubb. Okay, so Caleb Huntley to me feels like the one that's going to get blown to smithereens by Cordero coming back much more so than Algier, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We have in the chat Eric Figueroa saying, do I trade Gabe Davis and Mostert for Amari Cooper. I have Pittman, Amon-Ra, Terry, and Kirk. So Gabe Davis for trade his Gabe Davis
and Mostert.
Oh, okay. Sorry, man. Like I said, dude, it's been 4 Halloween parties in a row with kids, and I feel kind of sick. And do you know the worst part about these Halloween parties for like kids? It's like they're thrown by adults who hardly get to go out really anymore and stuff. And so you go to their houses and they got Jello shots and they got all this stuff. And they're just like, oh, come on, dude. Like, take the Jello shots. Fuck, the Jello shot? I've been taking a Jello shot since I was in college. You know, like I'm like, what's in it? They're like, fuck, I don't know. Like, anyway, so no, I wouldn't do that trade either. Hang on, dude. Hang on to. I would say hang on to Mostert, even though, God, dude, he's gonna get swindled a little bit, and he's had a couple bad weeks, you know. But I was telling Byron before this Jeff Wilson news, I'm like, on the trade cast, we need to make sure that we're trying to go after Mostert. If anybody's like, dude, even in this damn game versus Detroit, he can't get it done, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so look, you can look on the waiver wire cheat sheet for the list of the rest of these guys. You know, the kind of the deeper, kind of 5 to 10% bid types. You know, guys like, you know, the less premium handcuffs. The guys like Jaylen Warren and stuff. The guys, I mean, James Cook could maybe stand to be a little bit higher up on here. They're not playing like Zach Moss or anything anymore. You know.
Yeah.
And they were sniffing around Alvin Kamara, which makes me think that they're looking to integrate a piece kind of like that, maybe a little bit more down the stretch. So I kind of want to move James Cook and Caleb Hunt. James Cook needs to be ahead of Caleb Huntley here, Trash Man. I'm going to make that change.
You think so?
Yes. Yeah. With Cordero Patterson coming back? Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Let's move on to wide receiver, because we talked about coming out of the bye, the new stuff going on with the Kansas City Chiefs. What about Kadarius Toney? You and I had this discussion. I think a lot of people are going to be looking to add Josh Palmer this week with Mike Williams with his injury. Josh Palmer, a much more suitable guy to step in that kind of role than to step in whenever Keenan Allen was out, because it felt like whenever Keenan Allen was out, it was always DeAndre Carter, who, by the way, is DeAndre Carter really your best goddamn kick returner if you're the Chargers? What is wrong with that team's speed on offense? Are you kidding me? He's your best returner? He's not even fast. He's a shifty slot guy. Anyway, Minion, what's going on, brother? Great to see you. Busy hour last hour, Minion. Let's see if your Ravens get in on any of this action. Why don't we get the Ravens to trade for Kareem Hunt? I would love that. Okay. So Kadarius Toney, Romeo Doubs. I was reading earlier today about Patrick Mahomes being excited. He went up today to he had the article today where he said he went up to the facility over the bye week. He met Kadarius. He just said, you know, gave him all the lip service. I was a really, really good dude. Like, can't wait to see what he can do, all this stuff. And to me, a player like that could truly be the missing piece for what's happening with this offense.
So you feel like Toney was just kind of, the injury was not as serious as possible, and he just wanted to get out there? I mean, because...
Yeah, I just think he always has little nagging injuries. And I think Brian Daboll was the kind of coach that's just like, I mean, he's just the kind of coach that's like, man, I'm not going to, obviously, he don't want to mess with this guy. And Andy Reid loves messing with these guys.
Yeah. I mean, so you think that Toney's going to come right in and be able to, like, contribute right away?
Dude, if there's one player on waivers I'm picking up this week, it's Kadarius Toney. We're talking about a guy that if he stays healthy and he goes in there and he gets acclimated to a Patrick Mahomes offense, could be every week a guy that we're ranking in the top 15 wide receivers. That's it's just true. We've seen him get massive volume.
Yeah, for me it's Justin Fields though, I think. But
okay, well, we'll talk about Fields whenever we get there. I'm getting to where I'm just like, I think I'm getting to where I think Fields is looking awesome. But I hate the Bears. as a guy that grew up as a Bears fan, and just I can't stand what's being done to that franchise. We'll discuss. Yeah, Minion. We'll discuss likely for sure. I think that I'm not sure he's not the priority tight end pickup among these guys. But if you need to play this week, especially because if we look at the bye weeks, is Denver on bye? Yeah, so Denver's on bye. So if you need somebody for this week, I think Greg Dulcich is the top pickup as far as tight ends, right? But if you need somebody this week, I'd certainly pivot to likely, or maybe who does Jacksonville play? Man, Evan Ingram's been getting it done.
Ingram's been good.
Oh God, and they're playing the Raiders. In the match at home, and the matchup tool has that as the number 5 matchup for opposing tight ends. So that's pretty interesting. John Deba says, not sure if you guys talked about this already, but is Edmonds droppable in 16? No. I mean, we're talking about him where he belongs in the top tier as far as actual pickups. We think is probably in the bottom tier of the guys that we would consider in that 15 to 20% range. But Jesus Christ, John Deba, in a 16-team league, I mean, Chase Edmonds are the kind of guys that you held on to in hopes that maybe something like this might happen. Trashman, your main pushback on my Kadarius Toney stuff, it felt like was Romeo Doubs, who, if Cody's still in chat, I'd be interested to hear what Cody, where he is on Romeo Doubs now after this whole offseason where we've done so much work and we came into the Senior Bowl with big hopes for the guy. And I think the lesson I've learned from the whole Romeo Doubs saga is that, I'm not gonna put as much emphasis on moving forward. And this is will be our 12th year doing the scouting circuit in the springtime, and I'm just not going to put as much emphasis on somebody being super, super, super bad in one specific area of their game. Because I feel like I made fun of people for the whole DK Metcalf 3-cone. For me, maybe I got a little bit DK Metcalf 3-coney about Romeo Doubs with the way that he was just unable to get off press coverage. Well, I said that Trashman, he was falling over. He was looking like he wasn't a football player. He was just he didn't look like a football player when he was trying to get off press. But then here's the thing.
He had some great plays.
But here's the thing, dude. I sit and watch these damn Packers games, and I watch them. Not only do I see Romeo Doubs now, I mean, really earning trust from Aaron Rodgers with some sick catches. I mean, that game on Sunday night,
he had some really good catches at the Senior Bowl.
And the other thing is, I sit there and I watch him, and I don't ever see him getting pressed. He doesn't get pressed, so who gives a shit if he can't get off it? I mean, it's like so. I mean, look, the Green Bay needs somebody to step up. They need to do something different. They got back to running the football a little bit more. I think that kind of helped the offense out overall. I can't believe that they kept that game within 10 points. I think that, and Green Bay this week coming up. Do they have Detroit? Yeah, they're at Detroit. So then I mean, it's like it's crazy. Here's Cody. He says he's feeling fantastic about his Doubs takeaways. All right, man, good for you. He made a great catch, but he's not good. Look at the mannerisms from Rodgers towards him. No, I get it.
Rodgers looks that way at everybody.
And then Toure, and then Watson. Oh no! But did you see after some Toure after he broke off of his route, turned inside, and he turned inside just completely audible on the route, and Rodgers went up to me. He's like he couldn't believe it. He grabbed him by his feet. He just looking at these big eyes. He's like, I can't believe somebody just did that. Just patting him on the head. It was a really, really sick play for sure. So yeah, man, Cody, I'm not saying that I'm not in love with Romeo Doubs, but the fact is he has looked much better than I'd expected. And it's just a small takeaway for me just about my scouting process moving forward. I'm not gonna weigh certain aspects.
Doubs wasn't all bad at the Senior Bowl. He couldn't get off the press very well, but he had a handful of standout catches at that Senior Bowl.
Yeah, I get it.
I think he's probably just going to be streaky.
Yeah, but so I mean, look, to me, it's to me. I think Romeo Dobbs is going to be what Romeo Dobbs is, and he's going to pop off for some of these games where he scores 13 points. There are going to be some games like, the week before where I believe he got you a bagel. Was it a bagel? Was it a big zero burger? It was something bad, dude. It was something bad. I mean, he was just miserable in that game. So for me, I'm just like making these waiver wire pickups for me. It's right now the guys that could win it for me down the stretch. And Kadarius Toney could start popping off for top 15 wide receiver weeks if he gets that passing game clicking in the way that it was when they had an outside burner, not named Cole Hardman.
Like, if Lazard can't go this week, you're going to want to start Dobbs against Detroit. I mean, that's just
if Kadarius Toney, Kadarius Toney and Dobbs are both fine at the very top, and then there are other guys you can look at. Of course, you can look at Rondale. They're still running him some outside on the perimeter. He's not going to go back to the slot role, the Greg Dortch role that turned into the Rondale role that was looking so good before Hopkins came back. They're just going to keep giving Hopkins between 30 and 40% of the targets. They're going to get him in the slot. They're going to do all the things that Cliff Kingsbury's never even done before. It used to be just put DeAndre Hopkins over here on the left sideline, and that's just where he stays. That it doesn't look like that anymore. So, that's the rub with Rondale Moore's role. The rub with Wan'Dale Robinson's role we saw this week. If he doesn't get a ton of volume, he's not going to put up a big game for you.
I mean, Darius Slayton's been their number one receiver the past, 2 of the last 3 weeks.
Gallup, I mean, a little bit better this week. Trashman was kind of hoping for that.
I told you he didn't get cocked.
Yeah, Noah Brown kind of cupped him a little bit, dude. Noah Brown kind of walked in there with it. I get so tilted when I see Noah Brown catch a ball, and I just have my eye like halfway on it on one screen, and I think it's CeeDee Lamb because their bodies are kind of similar. They both have about the same length of brown hair. They both wear 80 numbers. It's just so tilting. You're like, oh crap, it's 80. Crap, it's 85. It didn't 88. Okay, and then Jahan Dotson will be back soon enough. Devin Duvernay, I think is probably in the top tier here of guys we want to be considering. I'm sure Minion Hunter
in PPR formats
will love to hear that. What's funny to me about Devin Duvernay, Trash Man, is like Devin Duvernay has gone from being a guy that was so unassuming and just sort of like a rank and file soldier there for that team that was just fitting into his meager role on offense and excelling as a special teams player, to now you're hearing like sometimes from the Baltimore media, he chirps a little bit now about wanting to get the football more. So Duvernay is starting to feel himself a little bit. We've always felt for Duvernay. We know that Rashad Bateman is going to probably miss some time with the foot. I'm not sure how this thing with Bateman is starting to feel like it could kind of string along, right, Trash Man?
Could be.
It's been a pain. It's been hard to deal with. So Duvernay's probably up there, and
it's just such a perfect fit for that offense. I mean, he's a running back at the receiver position, basically.
And with Mark Andrews, who knows? That's still up in the air, right? Yeah, that's still up in the air too. So it's a good matchup. Or this week? No, I'm sorry, it's not a good matchup.
Not a great matchup.
It's versus New Orleans, or it's versus New Orleans, which actually, I mean, it's showing as an okay matchup. It'll change a little bit if we find out that Lattimore is back in, and that's what the matchup tool will do. We'll talk about Isaiah Likely here in a minute whenever we get to the wide receivers or tight ends. Is there any of these other wide receivers that you want to talk about, though?
I mean, Terrace Marshall is an interesting pickup if you got the bench space. It seems like PJ Walker.
Anybody catching footballs from PJ Walker, you just got to have on your team, right?
Hey, PJ Walker's looked pretty good.
Dude, he hasn't just looked pretty good. He's looked. I mean, did you see what was Patrick Mahomes said that pass that he made was that pass to DJ Moore to cover was the best pass any quarterback's made in the league all year or something like. Have you gone back and watched that? It's like magic.
No, I didn't go back and see that. But
here, I mean, Steve Wilkes literally thinks he's really in the running to maybe keep a job, right? And he's saying, I'm pinning my chances of that on this guy based on what he did, based on what I've seen him do.
Yeah. Only other one, Treylon Burks looks like he might be close to coming back, so he's somebody to keep in the periphery.
Minion Hunter's asking when it's time to grab Watson in a standard league. I mean, you could do it. I mean, we're 2 weeks out.
If you got the bench space, do it now.
Yeah, 2 weeks out. Okay, tight ends. We talked about it earlier. I mean, I'm prioritizing Greg Dulcich. I don't care that the Broncos stink so bad. Trashman, did you see him in the UK game? They were targeting him on deep balls.
Yeah.
I mean, they were just using him in a way that you don't generally see most tight ends being used. And we know that Dulcich was, a super, super athletic specimen, but he comes in there and like Albert O is like a healthy scratch, right? He's been there forever. They put in Dulcich, his first game back in. He scores a touchdown. He dropped another one. Cody saying, think about what you just said. What? I just said a lot of shit, Cody. I'm sure a bunch of it was horrible. Tell me exactly what it was that I said that you find.
He said a lot.
Oh, he's saying Wilkes thinks he has a chance to keep this job, and he's pinning that to PJ Walker. Well, but it's true. Look, I'm not at practices. I don't have to keep that job. It's like if he thinks PJ Walker, I just don't think he's playing PJ Walker if he doesn't think that he gives him the best chance to keep the job.
I think he's probably the best quarterback on that.
Which is just so brutal to hear for two former first overall picks that they have on that team. Evan Ingram has been really good, right?
Yeah, Ingram's been really consistent.
But then I think Isaiah Likely. It's not like that's gonna be a bad matchup. Baltimore at New Orleans, but when he comes in there, dude, he looks. Likely looks.
They target him like he's Andrews.
Speaking of Cody Carpentier, man, a true favorite, a golden son of Cody Carpentier is Isaiah Likely. He was telling me about him long before we arrived in Mobile, and he really has been. He really has been really good, and he's that kind of wide receiver type of tight end that can be used in all those different ways. That if there is no Rashad Bateman, and for one game there is no Mark Andrews, you could see him, kind of the same logic that we're using for Devin Duvernay. You want to talk about some quarterbacks and stuff? Then I'm going to go over some of the questions we've gotten about who people can drop before we get out
also,
here.
I wanted to just touch on Brock Wright really quick. With Hawkinson going over to the Vikings.
He was concussed in this last game, so just keep that in mind. He's in concussion protocol, but we've had Brock Wright weeks before, and I'm not sure that they would have traded TJ Hawkinson in division if they didn't think they had somebody. But yeah, go ahead and go for it. I would warn people. He was concussed last week. He did not return, so I'd imagine he's still in concussion protocol. And I don't know how the protocols really work this year, whether you can come back the same week. You can't in college. I think in the pros you still can, but they're being a little bit more swindly about it.
He was for sure concussed?
I think so. Let me just make sure. Brock Wright concussion.
While you're looking at that, I'll go over to quarterbacks. First off,
Brock Wright. Yeah, so Brock Wright will not return. He's being evaluated for concussion and will not return Sunday against the Dolphins. He had 1 catch and 6 yards before having to leave the game.
Okay, so he's being evaluated, but he didn't necessarily.
They also have the rookie tight end who I believe he caught did James Mitchell catch a touchdown last week? I think he did. I think there are people still scoring touchdowns in that damn football game. Let me see James Mitchell. No, he didn't have a touchdown. Sorry. I did see him get involved, though. It looks like he was only in on like 8% of snaps.
He had 1 catch.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So Minion Hunter's throwing in an extra one of these players that I'll add to the list here, Trashman. Why don't you go ahead and go over quarterbacks? You can say your piece on Justin Fields, and we can get to these drops.
I mean, Justin Fields, he's improved every week for the past 3-4 weeks. This last week being, his best game of the season. I think it was 30 points or more, or just above 30 points in standard leagues. Chicago's realized that he has legs and he knows how to use them. And so you know how I feel about quarterbacks who can run, and Fields is one of those guys, and he's got another new weapon in Claypool. So I think things are looking up for Fields. I think he's somebody you might be able to bank on in this stretch, especially if you've lost someone like a Matt Ryan, or if you've been depending on somebody like a Russell Wilson. I think Fields is.
Who's been depending on a Matt Ryan in fantasy? You talk about 14.
I've had to.
Okay.
I've had to.
Okay, so this is new. This is just information about the William Jackson III trade to Pittsburgh. That is a 2025 conditional 7th, the 2025 conditional 6th. So they just swapped a 6 and a 7 conditionally in 2025 for William Jackson III from Washington to Pittsburgh. Okay. And then any other quarterbacks? Not really. I mean, that's the only one you're going to be going after. If you're looking to, you can look at the cheat sheet for guys.
Malik Willis.
It's like he's going to throw 10 balls again. I don't know if he's going to run. Like when's he going to open up and just run? I mean, he could one of these games he could go for 110 yards and two touchdowns. But
I understand if you're looking for upside.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Who can you drop them, Trash Man? We finally made it. People are asking, can they drop Rex Burkhead for any of the pickups this week?
Absolutely.
Jerick McKinnon.
Yep.
Robbie Anderson.
Who
I believe dudded again.
Yeah.
Let me just make sure. Like I think he was a goose egg again.
I'm pretty sure.
Let me make sure. Only 9% of snaps, 3 targets, 0 catches, 0 fucking interest. Get him the hell off your team, right?
Well, I think he'll have some good games, but yeah, he's going to be too inconsistent.
That guy's it. Robbie Anderson. Hunter Renfrow.
Yeah.
Even with Waller out and stuff, it's just like it doesn't matter. They just don't like him.
Like Mac Hollins is still a thorn in his side.
They just talk about Mac Hollins like they just say he's like one of the best run blocking wide receivers in the game. So they just, with the way they've been running, they really like him. Okay. Devontae Parker. I saw this one. I was like, probably he's hurt. Has he even been like Devontae?
Yeah, and it seems like Thornton's starting to move up in that offense.
Yeah, I said yes. These are starting to get hard. Okay, Derek Carr.
Yes, you know how I feel about Derek Carr.
James Robinson.
No, not yet.
What are you expecting from James Robinson? And when?
He's only been with the team for 1 week. I'd give him at least, a full, week.
And I'll say, our good friend of the show, JJ Zacharyson, pointed out that the Jets have the most mouth-watering fantasy playoff schedule that you could ever imagine. I know they get Detroit. I think they get Detroit. They get Seattle, and they get Jacksonville. Yeah. So it's if you can hang on. James Robinson revenge in the fantasy championship.
Oh wow.
It got asked last week, Trash. It got asked again. Drake London. I just can't do it. I'm not going to drop him.
I don't have to drop him in the league I have him in because it's a super deep league, but I can.
Like you said last week, you can't play him.
Yeah.
But I think we need to wait for signs of life there. There was a point in time when people wanted to drop and did drop Garrett Wilson. And, we saw this last week. That probably wasn't the best idea. He couldn't make the cheat sheet because he's owned in almost 70% of leagues now. So all right. Well, this one's somebody did ask about Jeff Wilson. The answer now is no. But right. But that's looking bad with McCaffrey. McCaffrey to the moon, by the way. Oh, hold on. Should Tyrion Davis-Price be on the cheat sheet with no Jeff Wilson?
I mean,
or do you going to care with Elijah?
I mean, Elijah's going to come back soon.
Tyrion Davis probably should be on the bottom tier. I think I'm going to make a note to add him on. I'm going to add TDP on the bottom. Okay, and then, all right, here's the last two hard ones. This one comes from Minion Hunter. He says, what about your snow tires, Alex? What about your snow tires? What about A.J. Dillon? Are you still holding out for the snow tires later in the season? I think I am. I
said that you could drop him, I think, last week, so.
No, that is a team to me that looks like it is heading back in the direction that it should be heading towards, using those two backs just a shitload more than they have.
I feel like James Robinson has a better chance of getting carries later into the season than I do A.J. Dillon. I mean, I'd rather have him at this point.
Well, we're not talking about going to picking up James. We're not talking about dropping
AJ
Dillon to go pick up James Robinson.
About James Robinson.
Right. We're talking about dropping A.J. Dillon to go pick up fucking Tyler Algier. It's like, I mean, or something. I'm not doing that. Dropping him to go pick up Rashad White? Like, no. Chase Edmonds? Latavius?
Would you drop him to pick up a Garrett Wilson if he's been dropped, or a Pacheco, or a Tony? I could do all of those things.
Look, I mean, you make an intriguing argument, but no, I'm just not gonna. I'm not quite there. I need like I need 2 more weeks of getting my nuts bashed in by a sledgehammer every time I put this guy in my lineup before I'm doing that. All right, here's the hardest one. I think I know your answer, but I was just like, somebody asked this, and I was like, huh? When are we to see Michael Thomas? Can you just drop Michael Thomas at this point?
No,
absolutely not. Right?
No, you can't.